नमः पार्वती पदये हर 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 महादेव। नमोऽस्त्वनन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादा शिशिरोर्बाहवे सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाय शाश्वते सहस्रकोटि युगधारिणे नमः। ॐ नमः शिवाय गुरवे सच्चिदानन्दमूर्तये निष्प्रपञ्चाय शान्ताय निरालम्बाय तेजसे नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्येकदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहे तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहे। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुपादुकाभ्यो नमः परेभ्यः परपादुकाभ्यः आचार्यसिद्धेश्वरपादुकाभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीगुरुपादुकाभ्यः। अहिंकारहिंकाररहस्ययुक्ता श्रींकारगुणार्थमहाविभूत्या ओंकारमर्म प्रतिपादिनीभ्यां नमो नमः श्रीगुरुपादुकाभ्यां। होत्राग्निहोत्राग्निहवेशहोत्रे होमादिसर्वकृतिभासमाना यद्ब्रह्म तद्बोधवितारिणीभ्यां नमो नमः श्रीगुरुपादुकाभ्यां। कामादिसर्पव्रजगारुणाभ्यां विवेकवैराग्यनिधिप्रदाभ्यां बोधप्रदाभ्यां द्रुतमोक्षदाभ्यां नमो नमः श्रीगुरुपादुकाभ्यां। अनन्तसंसारसमुद्रतारा नौकायिताभ्यां स्थिरभक्तिदाभ्यां भाग्यादिसंशोषणबाढवाभ्यां नमो नमः श्रीगुरुपादुकाभ्यां। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ अस्य श्रीगुरुगीतास्तोत्रमन्त्रस्य भगवान् सदाशिवऋषि नानाविधानि छन्दांसि श्रीगुरो परमात्मा देवता हम बीजं सहचोक्तिक्रोकीलकं श्रीगुरो प्रसादसिद्ध्यर्थे जपे विनियोगः। अथ ध्यानम्। हंसाभ्यां परिवृत्तपत्रकमले दिव्यै जगत्कारणे विश्वोत्कीर्णमनेकदेहनिलये स्वच्छन्दमात्मेच्छया तद्योदं पदसाम्भवं तु चरणं दीपाङ्कुरग्राहिणं प्रत्यक्षाक्षरविग्रहं गुरुपदं ध्यायेद्विभुं शाश्वतम्। सूत उवाच कैलासशिखरे रम्ये भक्तिसन्धाननायकं प्रणम्य पार्वती भक्त्या शङ्करं परिपृच्छति। श्रीदेव्योवाच ॐ नमो देवदेवेश परात्पर जगद्गुरो सदाशिव महादेव गुरुदीक्षां प्रदेहि मे। केन मार्गेण भो स्वामिन् देहि ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् त्वं कृपां कुरु मे स्वामिन् नमामि चरणौ तव। ईश्वर उवाच मम रूपासि देवि त्वं त्वत्प्रीत्यर्थं वदाम्यहं लोकोपकारकप्रश्नो न केनापि कृतः पुरा। दुर्लभं त्रिषु लोकेषु तच्छृणुष्व वदाम्यहं गुरुं विना ब्रह्म नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं वरानने। वेदशास्त्रपुराणानि इतिहासादिकानि च मन्त्रयन्त्रादिविद्याश्च स्मृतिरुच्चाटनादिकम् शैवशाक्तागमादीनि अन्यानि विविधानि च अपभ्रंशकराणीह जीवानां भ्रान्तचेतसाम्। यज्ञं व्रतं तपोदानं जपं तीर्थं तथैव च गुरुतत्त्वमविज्ञाय मूढस्ते चरते जनः। गुरुर्बुद्ध्यात्मनो नान्यत् सत्यं सत्यं तल्लाभार्थं प्रयत्नस्तु कर्तव्यो हि मनीषिभिः। गूढविद्या जगन्माया चाज्ञानसम्भवा उदयो यत्र काशेन गुरुशब्देन कथ्यते। सर्वपापविशुद्धात्मा गुरुपादसेवनात् देहि ब्रह्मा भवेद्यस्मात् त्वत्कृपार्थं वदामि ते। गुरुपादाम्बुजं स्मृत्वा जलं शिरसि धारयेत् सर्वतीर्थावगाहस्य सम्प्राप्नोति फलं नरः। गुरुपादोदकं सम्यक् संसारार्णवतारकम् अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं ज्ञानवैराग्यसिद्ध्यर्थं गुरुपादोदकं पिबेत्। गुरुपादोदकं पीत्वा गुरोरुच्छिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सदा ध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं सदा जपेत्। काशीक्षेत्रं तन्निवासो जाह्नवीचरणोदकं गुरुर्विश्वेश्वरः साक्षात् तारकं ब्रह्मनिश्चितम्। गुरुपादोदकं यत्तु गयासु सोक्षयो वटः तीर्थराजप्रयागश्च गुरुमूर्त्यै नमो नमः। गुरुमूर्तिं स्मरे नित्यं गुरुनाम सदा जपेत्। गुरोराज्ञां प्रकुर्वेत गुरोरन्यन्यभावयेत्। प्राप्यते तत्प्रसादतः। गुरुर्ध्यानं सदा कुर्यात् कुलस्त्री स्वपतिर्यथा। स्वाश्रमं च स्वजातिं च स्वकीर्तिपुष्टिवर्धनम् एतत् सर्वं परित्यज्य गुरोरन्यन्यभावयेत्। अनन्याश्चिन्तयन्तो मां सुलभं परमं पदम् तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन गुरोराराधनं कुरु। त्रैलोक्ये स्फुटभक्तारो देवाद्यासुरपन्नगा गुरोभक्त्रा स्थिता विद्या गुरोभक्त्या लभ्यते। गोकारस्त्वन्धकारश्च ऋकारस्तेज उच्यते। अज्ञानग्रासकं ब्रह्म गुरुरेव न संशयः। गोकार प्रथमो वर्णो मायादिगुणभासकः। ऋकारो द्वितीयो ब्रह्म मायाभ्रान्तिविनाशनः। एवं गुरुपदं श्रेष्ठं देवानामपि दुर्लभम्। हा हा हू हू गणश्चैव गन्धर्वैश्च प्रपूज्यते। ध्रुवं तेषां च सर्वेषां नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरोः परम्। आसनं शयनं वस्त्रं भूषणं वाहनादिकम् साधकेन प्रदातव्यं गुरुसन्तोषकारकम्। गुरोराराधनं कार्यं स्वजीवित्वं निवेदयेत्। कर्मणा मनसा वाचा नित्यमाराधयेत् गुरुं। दीर्घदण्डं नमस्कृत्य निर्लज्जो गुरुसन्निधौ। शरीरम् इन्द्रियं प्राणान् सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत्। आत्मदारादिकं सर्वं सद्गुरुभ्यो निवेदयेत्। कृमिकीटभस्मविष्ठा दुर्गन्धे मलमूत्रकम् श्वेतरक्तं त्वचं मांसं वञ्चयेन्नावरानने। संसारवृक्षमारूढाः पतन्तो नरकार्णवे। येन चैवोद्धृताः सर्वे तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः। गुरुरेव परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। हेतवे जगतामेव संसारार्णवसेतवे। प्रभवे सर्वविद्यानां शम्भवे गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानं तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। त्वं पिता त्वं च मे माता त्वं बन्धुस्त्वं च देवता। संसारप्रतिबोधार्थं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यत्सत्येन जगत्सत्यं यत्प्रकाशेन भातिता। यदानन्देन नन्दन्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य स्थित्या सत्यमिदं यद्भाति भानुरूपतः। प्रियं पुत्रादि यत्प्रीत्या तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। येन चेतायते हीदं चित्तं चेतायते नयं। जाग्रत्स्वप्नसुषुप्त्यादि तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य ज्ञानादि न दृश्यं भिन्नभेदतः सदेकरूपरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्यामतं तस्य मतं मतं यस्यानभेदसः अनन्यभावभावाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यस्य कारणरूपस्य कार्यरूपेण भाति कार्यकारणरूपाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नानारूपमिदं सर्वं न केनाप्यस्ति भिन्नता कार्यकारणता चैव तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। यदध्रीकमलद्वन्द्वं द्वन्द्वानिवारकं तारकं सर्वदा पद्भ्यः श्रीगुरुं प्रणमाम्यहम्। शिवे क्रुद्धे गुरुस्त्राता गुरु क्रुद्धे शिवो नहि तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजे। वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वं वाङ्मनश्चित्तगोचरं श्वेतरक्तप्रभाभिन्नं शिवशक्त्यात्मकं परम्। ऋकारं च गुणातीतं ऋकारं रूपवर्जितं गुणातीतस्वरूपं च यो दद्यात् स गुरो स्मृतः। आत्रिनेत्र सर्वसाक्षी अचतुर्बाहुरच्युतः अचतुर्वदनो ब्रह्मा श्रीगुरु अयं मयाञ्जलिर्बद्धो दयासागरवृद्धये यदनुग्रहतो जन्तुर्चित्रसंसारमुक्तिभाक्। श्रीगुरो परमं रूपं विवेकचक्षुषोऽमृतं मन्दभाग्यान् पश्यन्ति अन्धा सूर्योदयं यथा। श्रीनाथ चरणद्वन्द्वं यस्यां दिशि विराजते तस्यै दिशे नमस्कुर्यात् भक्त्या प्रतिदिनं प्रिये। तस्यै दिशे शततमञ्जलिरेतार्ये प्रक्षिप्यते मुखरितौ मधुपैर्बुधैश्च। जागर्ति यत्र भगवान् गुरुचक्रवर्ती विश्वोदयप्रलयनाटकनित्यसाक्षी। श्रीनाथादिगुरुत्रयं गणपतिं पीठत्रयं भैरवं सिद्धौघं वटुकत्रयं पदयुगं धूतिक्रमं मण्डलम्। वीरान्द्वष्टचतुष्टषष्टिनवकं वीरावलिपञ्चकं श्रीमन्मालिनीमन्त्रराजसहितं वन्दे गुरुर्मण्डलम्। अव्यस्तैः सकलैः सुदीर्घमनिलैर्व्याधिप्रदैर्दुष्करैः प्राणायामशतैरनेककरणैः दुःखात्मकैर्दुर्जयैः। यस्मिन्नव्युदिते विनश्यति बली वायु स्वयं तत्क्षणात् प्राप्तुं तत्सहजं स्वभावमनिशं सेवध्वमेकं गुरुं। स्वदेशिकस्यैव शरीरचिन्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य चिन्तनं स्वदेशिकस्यैव च नामकीर्तनं भवेदनन्तस्य शिवस्य कीर्तनं। यत्पादरेणुकणिका कापि संसारवारिधे सेतुबन्धायते नाथं देशिकं तं उपास्महे। यस्मादनुग्रहं लब्ध्वा महादज्ञानमुत्सृजे तस्मै श्री नमश्चाभीष्टसिद्धये पादाब्जं सर्वसंसार दावानलविनाशकं ब्रह्मरन्ध्रेषिताम्भोज मध्यस्थं चन्द्रमण्डले अकथादित्रिरेकाब्जे सहस्रदलमण्डले हंसपार्श्वत्रिकोणे च स्मरे तन्मध्यकं गुरुम् सकलभुवनसृष्टि कल्पिताशेषपुष्टिर्निखिला निगमदृष्टि सम्पदां व्यर्थदृष्टि अवगुणपरिमाष्टि तत्पदार्थैकदृष्टि भवगुणपरमेष्टि मोक्षमार्गैकदृष्टि सकलभुवनारङ्ग स्थापनस्तंवयष्टि सकरुणारसवृष्टि तत्त्वमाला समष्टि सकलसमया सृष्टिः सच्चिदानन्ददृष्टि निवासतु मयि नित्यं श्रीगुरुर्दिव्यदृष्टिः अग्निशुद्धं समन्तातु ज्वालापरीचकाधिया मन्त्रराजमिमं मन्ये अग्निशं पातु मृत्युतः तदेजति तन्नैजति तद्दूरे तत्समीपगे तदन्तरस्य सर्वस्य तदु सर्वस्य बाह्यतः अजोऽहमजरोऽहं च अनादिनिधनस्वयम् अविकारश्चिदानन्द अणीयान्महतो महान् अपूर्वाणां परं नित्यं स्वयं ज्योतिर्निरामयम् विरजं परमाकाशं ध्रुवमानन्दमव्ययम् श्रुतिप्रत्यक्षमैथिह्यम् अनुमानश्चतुष्टयम् यस्य चात्मा तपो वेद देशिकं च सदा स्मरेत् मननं यद्भवं कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते साधुत्वं च मया दृष्टं त्वयि तिष्ठति सम्प्रतम् अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः वेदान्ताम्बुजसूर्याय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं यय्वा सर्वसम्प्राप्ते तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमातीतं निरञ्जनं नादबिन्दुकलातीतं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः आवरं जङ्गमं चैव तथा चैव चराचरम् तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ज्ञानशक्तिसमारूढस्तत्त्वमालाविभूषितः भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदाताय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अनेकजन्मसम्प्राप्त सर्वकर्मविदाहिने स्वात्मज्ञानप्रभावेण तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः न गुरोरधिकं तत्त्वं न गुरोरधिकं तपः तत्त्वं ज्ञानात् परं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः मन्नाथ श्री जगन्नाथो मद्गुरु श्री जगद्गुरु ममात्मा सर्वभूतात्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ध्यानमूलं गुरुर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलं गुरुः पदं मन्त्रमूलं गुरुर्वाक्यं मोक्षमूलं गुरुः कृपा। गुरुरादिरनादिश्च गुरुपरमदैवतं गुरुपरतरं नास्ति तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सप्तसागरपर्यन्तं तीर्थस्नानादिकं फलं गुरोरङ्घ्रिपयो बिन्दु सहस्रांशेन दुर्लभम्। हरौ रुष्टे गुरुस्राता गुरुरुष्टेन कश्चन तस्मात् सर्वप्रयत्नेन श्रीगुरुं शरणं व्रजे। गुरुरेव जगत्सर्वं ब्रह्म विष्णु शिवात्मकं गुरुपरतरं नास्ति तस्मात् सम्पूजये गुरुं। ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं लभ्यते गुरुभक्तितः गुरुपरतरं नास्ति ध्येयोऽसौ गुरुमार्गिभिः। तरं नास्ति नेति नेतीति वै श्रुतिः मनसा वचसा चैव नित्यमाराधये गुरुं। गुरो कृपा प्रसादेन ब्रह्म विष्णु सदाशिवा समर्था प्रभवादौ च केवलं गुरुसेवया। देवकिन्नरगन्धर्वा दरो यक्षचारणा मुनयोऽपि न जानन्ति गुरुशुश्रूषणे विधिम्। महाहंकारगर्भेण तपोविद्यावलान्विताः संसारकुहरा वर्ते घटयन्त्रे यथा घटाः। न मुक्ता देवगन्धर्वा इतरो यक्षकिन्नरा ऋषया सर्वसिद्धाश्च गुरुसेवा परमुखाः। ध्यानं शृणु महादेवी सर्वानन्दप्रदायकं सर्वसौख्यकरं नित्यं भुक्तिमुक्तिविदायकम्। श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं स्मरामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं वदामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं नमामि श्रीमत्परब्रह्म गुरुं भजामि। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम्। एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। नित्यं शुद्धं निराकारं निरञ्जनं नित्यबोधं चिदानन्दं ब्रह्मा नमाम्यहम्। हृदम्बुजे कर्णिकमध्य संस्थे सिंहासने संस्थितः ध्यायेत् गुरुं चन्द्रकला प्रकाशं चित्पुस्तकाभीष्टवरं दधानम्। श्वेताम्बरं श्वेतविलेपपुष्पं मुक्ताविभूषं मुदितं द्विनेत्रं वामाङ्गपीठस्थितदिव्यशक्तिं मन्दस्थितं सान्द्रकृपानिधानम्। आनन्दमानन्दकरं प्रसन्नं ज्ञानबोधयुक्तं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं भवरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि। यस्मिन् सृष्टि स्थितिध्वंस निग्रहानुग्रहात्मकं कृत्यं पञ्चविधं शाश्वत भासते तं नमाम्यहम्। प्रातः शिरसि शुक्लात् स्मरेतं नाम पूर्वकम्। न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं न गुरोरधिकं शिवशासनता शिवशासनतः शिवशासनता शिवशासनतः। इदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं त्विदमेव शिवं मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतो मम शासनतः। एवं विधं गुरुं ध्यात्वा ज्ञानमुत्पद्यते स्वयं तत्सद्गुरो प्रसादेन मुक्तोऽहमेति भावये। गुरुदर्शितमार्गेण मनः शुद्धिं तु कारयेत् अनित्यं खण्डयेत् सर्वं यत्किञ्चिदात्मगोचरम्। ज्ञेयं सर्वस्वरूपं च ज्ञानं च मन उच्यते। ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं समं कुर्यात् नान्यः पन्था द्वितीयकः। एवं श्रुत्वा महादेवी गुरुनिन्दां करोति यः स याति नरकं घोरं यावच्चन्द्रदिवाकरो। यावत्कल्पान्तको देहस्तावदेव गुरुं स्मरेत्। गुरुलोपो न कर्तव्यः स्वच्छन्दो यदि भाववे। हुङ्कारेण न वक्तव्यं प्राज्ञै शिष्यै कथञ्चन। गुरोरग्रे न वक्तव्यम् असत्यं न कदाचन। गुरुं कृत्य हुङ्कृत्य गुरुं निर्जित्य बाधतः अरण्ये निर्जले देशे अभवेत् ब्रह्मराक्षसः। मुनिभिः पन्नगैर्वापि सुरैर्वासापितो यदि कालमृत्यो भयाद्वापि गुरुरक्षति पार्वती। अशक्ता हि सुराद्यश्च अशक्ता मुनयस्तथा गुरुशापेन ते शीघ्रं क्षयं यान्ति न संशयः। मन्त्रराजमिमं देवी गुरोरित्यक्षरद्वयं स्मृतिवेदार्थवाक्येन गुरुः साक्षात् परं पदम्। श्रुतिस्मृति अविज्ञाय केवलं गुरुसेवका ते वै सन्न्यासिना प्रोक्ता इतरे वेषधारिणः। नित्यं ब्रह्मा निराकारं निर्गुणं बोधयेत् परं सर्वं ब्रह्म दीपो दीपान्तरं यथा। गुरुः कृपा प्रसादेन आत्मारामं निरीक्षयेत् अनेन गुरुमार्गेण स्वात्मज्ञानं प्रवर्तते। आब्रह्मस्तम्भपर्यन्तं परमात्मास्वरूपकं स्थावरं जङ्गमं चैव प्रणमामि जगन्मयम्। वन्देऽहं सच्चिदानन्दं भेदातीतं नित्यं पूर्णं निराकारं निर्गुणं स्वात्मसंस्थितं परात्परतरं ध्येयं नित्यमानन्दता हृदयाकाशमध्यस्थं शुद्धस्फटिकसन्निभं स्फटिकाप्रतिमारूपं दृश्यते दर्पणे यथा तथात्मनि चिदाकारम् आनन्दं सोऽहमित्युत अङ्गुष्ठमात्रपुरुषं ध्यायतश्चिन्मयं हृदि तत्र स्फुरति भावो यः शृणुतं कथयाम्यहम् अगोचरं तथा गम्यं नामरूपविवर्जितं निःशब्दं तद्विजानीयात् स्वभावं ब्रह्म पार्वती यथा गन्धः स्वभावेन कर्पूरकुसुमादिषु शीतोष्णादिस्वभावेन तथा ब्रह्म च शाश्वतम् स्वयं तथाविदो भूत्वा स्थातव्यं यत्र कुत्रचित् कीटभ्रमरवत् तत्र ध्यानं भवति तादृशम् घोरं ध्यानं तदा कृत्वा स्वयं ब्रह्ममयो भवेत् पिण्डे पदे तथा रूपे मुक्तौ सो नात्र संशयः श्रीपार्वती उवाच पिण्डं किं नो महादेव पदं किं समुदाहृतं रूपातीतं च रूपं किम् एतदाख्याहि शङ्करम् श्रीमहादेव उवाच पिण्डं कुण्डलिनी शक्तिः पदं हंसमुदाहृतं रूपं बिन्दुरिति गेयम् रूपातीतं निरञ्जनम् पिण्डे मुक्ता पदे मुक्ता हे मुक्ता रूपातीते तु ये मुक्ता ते मुक्ता नात्र संशयः स्वयं सर्वमयो भूत्वा परं तत्त्वं विलोकये परात् परतरं नान्यत् सर्वमेतन्निरालयम् तस्यावलोकनं प्राप्य सर्वभङ्गविवर्जितः एकाकी निःस्पृहः शान्तः तिष्ठासे तत्प्रसादतः लब्धं वा धनलब्धं वा स्वल्पं वा बहुलं तथा निष्कामेनैव भोक्तव्यं सदा सन्तुष्टचेतसा सर्वज्ञपदमृत्याहुर्देहि सर्वमयो बुधा सदानन्दः सदा शान्तो रमते यत्र कुत्रचित् यत्रैव तिष्ठते सोऽपि सदेशा पुण्यभाजनम् मुक्तस्य लक्षणं देवी तवाग्रे कथितं मया उपदेशस्तथा देवी गुरुमार्गेण मुक्तिदः गुरुभक्तस्य सकलं तव कीर्तितम् अनेन यद्भवेत् कार्यं तद्वदामि महामते लौकिकं तु न भावये लौकिका कर्मणो यान्ति ज्ञानहीना बभार्णव ज्ञाने तु भावयेत् सर्वं कर्म निष्कर्म यत्कृतम् इदं तो भक्तिभावेन पठते शृणुते यदि लिखित्वा तत्प्रदातव्यं तत्सर्वं सफलं भवेत् गुरुगीतात्मकं देवी शुद्धतत्त्वं मयोदितं भवव्याधिविनाशार्थं वयमेव जपेत् सदा। गुरुगीताक्षरैकं तु मन्त्रराजमिमं जपेत् अन्ये च विविधा मन्त्रा फलं नार्हन्ति षोडशीम्। अनन्तफलमाप्नोति गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वपापप्रशमनं सर्वदारिद्र्यनाशनं कालमृत्युभयहरं सर्वसङ्कटनाशनं यक्षराक्षसभूतानां चोरव्याघ्रभयापहम् महाव्याधिहरं सर्वं विभूतिसिद्धिदं भवेत् अथवा मोहनं वश्यं स्वयमेव जपेत् सदा। वस्त्रासने च दारिद्र्यं पाषाणे रोगसम्भवः मेदिन्यां दुःखमाप्नोति काष्ठे भवति निष्फलम्। कृष्णाजिने ज्ञानसिद्धिर्मोक्षश्रीव्याघ्रचर्मणि कुशासने ज्ञानसिद्धिः सर्वसिद्धिस्तु बले। कुशैर्वा दुर्भया देवी आसने शुभ्रकम्बले उपविश्य ततो देवी जपेदेकाग्रमानसः। ध्येयं शुक्लं च शान्त्यर्थं वश्ये रक्तासनप्रिये अविचारे कृष्णवर्णं पीतवर्णं धनागमे। उत्तरे शान्तिकामस्तु वश्ये पूर्वं मुखो जपेत् दक्षिणे मारणं प्रोक्तं पश्चिमे च धनागमः। मोहनं सर्वभूतानां बन्धमोक्षकरं जपेत् सर्वलोकवशं भवेत्। सर्वेषां संवनकरं गुणानां च विवर्धनं दुष्कर्मनाशनं चैव सुकर्मसिद्धिदं भवेत्। असिद्धं साधयेत् कार्यं नवग्रहभयापहं दुःस्वप्ननाशनं चैव सुस्वप्नफलदायकम्। सर्वशान्तिकरं नित्यं तथा वन्द्यात् पुत्रदाम् अवैधव्यकरं स्त्रीणां सौभाग्यदायकं सदा। आयुरारोग्यमैश्वर्यं पुत्रपौत्रप्रवर्धनम् अकामतः श्रीविधवा धपान्मोक्षमवाप्नुयात्। अवैधव्यं सकामातु लभते चान्यजन्मनि सर्वदुःखभयं विघ्नं नाशयेच्छापहारकम्। सर्वबाधाप्रशमनं सर्वार्थकाममोक्षदं यं यं चिन्तयते कामं तं तं प्राप्नोति निश्चितम्। कामितस्य कामधेनो कल्पनाकल्पपादपः चिन्तामणिश्चिन्तितस्य सर्वमङ्गलकारकम्। मोक्षहेतुर्जपे नित्यं मोक्षश्रियमवाप्नुयात्। भोगकामो जपेद्यो यत्यकामफलप्रदम्। जपेक्षाक्तश्च सौरश्च काणपत्यश्च वैष्णवः शैवश्च सिद्धिदं देवी सत्यं सत्यं न संशयः। अथ काम्य जपेक्षानं तथा यामि वरानने सागरे वा सरिते शक्तिदेवालये गोष्ठे सर्व मठे च धात्रिमूले वा मठे वृन्दावने तथा पवित्रे निर्मले स्थाने नित्यानुष्ठानतोऽपि वा निर्वेदने मौनेन जपमेतं समाचरेत् श्मशाने भयभूमौ तु वटमूलान्तिके तथा सिद्ध्यन्ति धौतरे मूले चूतवृक्षस्य सन्निधौ गुरुपुत्र वरं मूर्खात् तस्य सिद्ध्यन्ति नान्यथा शुभकर्माणि सर्वाणि दीक्षाव्रततपांसि च संसारमलनाशार्थं भवपाशनिवृत्तये गुरुगीताम्बसि स्नानं तत्त्वज्ञः कुरुते सदा स एव च गुरुः साक्षात् सदा सद्ब्रह्मवित्तमः तस्य स्थानानि सर्वाणि पवित्रोऽसौ स्वभावाद्यत्र तिष्ठति यत्र देवगणा सर्वे क्षेत्रे पीठे वसन्ति आसनस्थशयानो वा गच्छन् तिष्ठन् वदन्नपि अश्वारूढो गजारूढः सुप्तो जागरितोऽपि वा शुचिस्माश्च सदा ज्ञानी गुरुगीता जपेन तु तस्य दर्शनमात्रेण पुनर्जन्म न विद्यते समुद्रे च तथा तोयं क्षीरे क्षीरं घृते घृतं भिन्ने कुम्भे यथाकाशस्तथात्मा परमात्मनि तथैव ज्ञानी जीवात्मा परमात्मानि लीयते ऐक्येन रमते ज्ञानी यत्र तत्र निवानिशम् एवं विधो महामुक्तः सर्वं तस्य सर्वप्रयत्नेन भावभक्तिं करोति यः सर्वसन्देहरहितो मुक्तो भवति पार्वती भुक्तिमुक्तिद्वयं तस्य युवाग्रे च सरस्वती अनेन प्राणिना सर्वे गुरुगीता जपेन तु सर्वसिद्धिं प्राप्नुवन्ति भुक्तिमुक्ति संशयः सत्यं सत्यं पुनः धर्म्यं सांख्यं वयोधिकं गीता समं नास्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने एको देव एक धर्म एकनिष्ठा परं तपः गुरुपरतरं नान्यत् नास्ति तत्त्वं गुरुपरम् माता धन्या पिता धन्यो धन्यो वंशः कुलं तथा धन्या च वसुधा देवी गुरुभक्ति सुदुर्लभा शरीरमिन्द्रियं प्राणात् चार्था स्वजन बान्धवा माता पिता कुलं देवी गुरुरेव न संशयः आकल्पजन्मनां कोट्या जपभ्रततपक्रिया तत्सर्वं सफलं देवी गुरुसन्तोषमात्रतः विद्या तपोबलेनैव मन्दभाग्याश्रये नराः गुरुसेवां न कुर्वन्ति सत्यं सत्यं वरानने ब्रह्म विष्णु महेशाश्च देवर्षि पितृकिन्नराः सिद्धचारणयक्षाश्च अन्येऽपि मुनयो जनाः गुरो परं तीर्थम् अन्यतीर्थं निरर्थकम् सर्वतीर्थाश्रयो देवी पादंगुष्ठश्च वर्तते जपेन जयमाप्नोति चानन्तफलमाप्नुयात् येन कर्म त्यजन् सर्वं स्थानानि च धर्माणि च जपं हीनासनं कुर्वन् हीनकर्मफलप्रदम् गुरुगीतां प्रयाणेव सङ्ग्रामे रिपुसङ्कटे जपं जयमवाप्नोति मरणे मुक्तिदायकम् सर्वकर्म गुरुपुत्रस्य सिद्ध्यति इदं रहस्यं नो वाच्यं तवाग्रे कथितं मया सुगोप्यं च मम त्वं च प्रियत्विति स्वामी मुख्य गणेशादि विष्णुवादीनां च पार्वती मनसापि न वक्तव्यं सत्यं सत्यं वरम्यम् अतीव पक्वचित्ताय श्रद्धा भक्तियुताय च प्रवक्तव्यमिदं देवी ममात्मासि सदा प्रिये अभक्ते वञ्चके धूर्ते आखण्डे नास्तिके नरे मनसापि न वक्तव्यं गुरुगीता कदाचन संसारसागरसमुद्धरणैकमन्त्रं ब्रह्मादिदेवमुनिपूजितसिद्धमन्त्रं दारिद्र्यदुःखभवरोगविनाशमन्त्रं वन्दे महाभयहरं गुरुरत्नमन्त्रम् इति श्रीस्कन्दपुराणे उत्तरखण्डे ईश्वरपार्वती संवादे गुरुगीता समाप्ता श्रीगुरुदेव चरणार्पणमस्तु नित्यानन्दाय गुरवे शिष्यसंसारहारिणे भक्तकार्ये कदेहाय नमस्ते चित्सदात्मने निर्वासनं निराकाङ्क्षं सर्वदोषविवर्जितं निरालम्बं निरातङ्कं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् निर्ममं निरहङ्कारं समालोष्टात्मकाञ्चनं समदुःखसुखं धीरं निवधूतं नमाम्यहम् अविनाशिनमात्मानम् एकं विज्ञाय तत्त्वतः वीतरागभयक्रोधं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् नाहं देहो न मे देहो जीवो नाहम् अहं इति एवं विज्ञाय अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् समस्तं कल्पनामात्रम् आत्मा मुक्ता सनातना इति विज्ञाय संतृप्तं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं कामसङ्कल्पवर्जितम् स्वभावेनैव यो योगी सुखं भोगं न वाञ्छति यदृच्छाला नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् नैव निन्दा प्रशंसाभ्यां यस्य विक्रियते मनः आत्मक्रीडं महात्मानम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् नित्यं जाग्रदवस्थायां स्वप्नवद्योऽवतिष्ठते निश्चिन्तं चिन्मयात्मानं सत्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् द्वेषं नास्ति प्रियं नास्ति नास्ति यस्य शुभाशुभम् वेदज्ञानविहीनं तम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् जडं पश्यति नो यस्तु जगत् पश्यति चिन्मयम् नित्ययुक्तं गुणातीतं विज्ञानन्दं नमाम्यहम् यो हि दर्शनमात्रेण भवते भुवनत्रयम् पावनं जङ्गमं तीर्थम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् सर्वपूज्यं सदा पूर्णम् अखण्डानन्दविग्रहम् स्वप्रकाशं चिदानन्दं नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् निष्कलं निष्क्रियं शान्तं निर्मलं परमामृतम् मणिषापुरिवासिनम् अवधूतं नमाम्यहम् योगपूर्णं तपोमूर्ति प्रेमपूर्णं सुदर्शनं ज्ञानपूर्णं कृपामूर्ति नित्यानन्दं नमाम्यहम् दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनाः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तो मुच्येत बन्देभ्यो मुक्तः विमोचयेत् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्याय्येन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप् भवेत् सर्वस्तरतु दुर्गाणि सर्वभद्राणि पश्यतु सर्वकामान् अवाप्नोतु सर्वत्र नन्दतु स्वस्ति मात्रौ पितॄनो अस्तु स्वस्ति गोभ्यो जगति पुरुषेभ्यः विश्वान्तु सुविधात्रां नस्तु योगे शान्ति 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 आरती करूं करो कृपा सद्गुरु जगतार शतपथ दर्शक भ्रांति करो कृपा सद्गुरु जगतार शतपथ दर्शक भ्रांति निवार जय हो नित्य ज्योति दिखलाने माले लीलाधर की आरती आरती करूं प्यारे गुरु आरती गुरु भारती नित्यानंद है सद्गुरु दाता शक्ति मुक्तानंद है सद्गुरु दाता शक्ति पात के दिव्य प्रदाता हर के मात गणेश पुरी भगवाना हरले जन के आरती करूं
Sadhgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Happy Easter, everybody, wherever you are. Important day which reminds us that we are much more than what we think we are. In several ways it can be interpreted. It is like you are not what you think you are divine. That is the message for Easter. And it's also the message for today's contribution. And every time we read a book, it changes us. And we're always hoping that it's a good book because it will change us for the better. But nothing we do can be done without consequences. So we are studying Spandakarika, which is excellent, because every time we read it, and every time we reread each paragraph, because it's not a book that you can go reading like a novel, you have to really go deep into it and read also commentaries of the great sages since 1,000 years ago at least. So what did they understand from the Spandakarikas? And they felt the inclination to share it with us so that other people who are not so learned, we could see, like myself and everybody, could understand what this means. Because it's very deep and it's very high. So the foundation of the Spandakarikas is the Shiva Sutras, which is an important scripture of the Indian spiritual literature. And then when it was written for people like us, but there is a place there where it says, Spandakarikas is not for students, it's for masters. So we are here studying. We must have done something right in another lifetime, or in this one. And the theme, I would say, that it teaches us to go into Spanda. And what is Spanda? Spanda means like a subtle movement in consciousness that gives rise to life, that gives rise to creation, that gives rise to reality. So we always compare it, and they compare it as well with the ocean, because we are in the bottom of the ocean where apparently there's nothing, and I emphasize apparently. There's nothing, and then it starts moving, and there's currents, and there's fish, and there's all types of vegetables that are marine, and suddenly there's that thing called life, and then it comes in a form, as we suppose that we're reptiles, and then fish, and then us. And everything comes from that substratum, or from that, what could I say, the base of life. In the same way, the consciousness that creates that is also an ocean. It is not an ocean made of water, it is an ocean made of energy. So it is called Spanda. And the book is called Spandakarika because it's explanations on how this Spanda works. It's no small stuff. When we start reading this, and what happens is you begin to wonder, is everything that I see real, or is it unreal? Is Spanda real and I cannot see it? Or these chairs and tables and people are real just because I see them? So the first part of this is we would be able to qualify something as real or unreal if we had, but we don't have. If we had the proper machinery for measuring. Scientists at this point in NY University, there is a center for study of consciousness and some other reactions of the brain with drugs, because now people are interested in understanding what is consciousness, how come it can change everything, it can change your life. As we will see, it can change the world around you. So we see that consciousness is there, and we are that because we are conscious. And the proof of this would be, for example, we have an iron, and we plug it into the power outlet, and then we iron, of course, with it. And it is a demonstration of the power of electricity, which nobody really knows what it is, electricity, but we can use it like that. And it can take many forms. It can be a blender, it can be a hairdryer, it can be a light bulb, but it's all the same electricity. So Spanda is just one, and it takes on many forms. But we cannot see that And in order to see it, the mind has to become very subtle. The mind has to go from lower levels where it is and go up and more capable of perceiving, we could say sensitive. Just like a microphone can be called sensitive. They call it sensitive when it catches sometimes, and it's dangerous, noises or voices that are very far away, and we may not be aware that we are being recorded. Sometimes that happens when it's really good microphone, then I can catch the birds or whatever that is happening outside. So the mind has to become like that. In the other part of this Karika, what it says is, Spanda is a subject, and is the only subject, is the only thing that really exists. Everything else is an object. Everything, what it means is you do something, and that something receives the action of what you're doing, therefore is an object. And it plays with this word so much that I've been thinking and reading and hearing talks about from scientists exactly what it is, this subject-object relationship. So the subject is the one who sees, is the one who observes, is the witness of the mind, and the object is the mind. So I perform an action, and this receives the action. But Spanda has no second, it's only the subject. So it knows, it does, it fabricates, we can say, but we are only watching until the moment, like Umesh says in his beautiful book about Spandakarikas, we meet the Guru, and that energy that is capable of understanding this then awakens, and we call it Kundalini. There's no Kundalini awakening, there is not a possibility of understanding these things because they are very like in another world. So the first question is this world real or is it unreal? Well, at our level, what we can see, what we can hear and perceive with the senses is real. But it's not really real because it's a reduction. Maybe you heard the word reduction when you read recipes for cooking, and you boil it and boil it and boil it, and the final product is called a reduction. So let's say, for example, that we want to go somewhere, and you want to use your GPS. And like you get your phone like this, the icon is there, and you just press, home, Shanti Mandir. Lucky for me, this is my home. So you got this, but you don't see the ones and zeros and the combination and all the creation that went into the telephone or all the systems, and also the radars that are in the sky and satellites, and all this, we don't see it. It means that what is, we don't see. We only see the reduction of creation. This is a life-changing information. I think, like they say, a game changer, because then we know we really know nothing. We really are seeing the reduction of so many creations that happen. When we say, how is this person is like this, we know nothing. We don't know. For example, like he would say, what time is it? And I hear a question. There is time. Time is relative, or this person wants to know in this relative level what time it is for something he needs to do. But I don't see his brain creating the question, and then the emotion that goes in it, the desire to communicate, the probably little nervousness, not knowing what time it is, and then the 4 levels of speech that it creates. It is an impulse, and then it creates a thought, and then creates a desire, and then creates the voice, and it comes through the mouth. We don't see anything, we just hear that question. It is a reduction. So our view of the world is not so much at this point, whether it is real or unreal, it is a reduction. We're seeing like this. So that is very interesting, because if you think of the world and you think that it's full of wars and climate change and many negativities, then what is happening is those people who are in power, if they think that the world is coming to an end anyway, that will make their behavior into something that doesn't really make the effort to make it last. If they think it must be, like finished at some point in a calendar that they measure, and then the Messiah is going to come or something, then they probably think, okay, the sooner the better. So we pave the road for him or she or for her. You know what I'm saying? So depending on the mentality of the people that are in power in any situation, then their reactions and the way they affect us changes. One word can change everything. If there is one word that can make us think differently, then our reactions are different, the behavior is different, and the results are different. That is why I see the importance of reading these books. There are many videos on YouTube about scientists that are trying to understand consciousness. But I have a surprise for them because we will never understand it because we are the object. So Spanda exists, Sat, Chit, Ananda exists, and the only way to know it is to merge into it, to leave the limited identification and then be in it, which we are all the time, but is veiled. We know it, we've heard it so many times, but this would make the world real, the world we see. It would be like changing our glasses and seeing much better. Some people cannot see at all, and you can see their faces and their joy when they get new glasses. The world appears there, and it is real. They are trying to understand consciousness for a reason, because all of their studies, they come to an end, they come to a limit, they come to a place where they have to see that there is something that is causing the brain to create thoughts, the brain to create ideas, opinions, debates, whatever, because they don't know what it is, because the brain is inactive. And all the organs, we read that in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, all the organs in the body are really inert. They only work when they are activated by the Shakti. When that goddess comes in, it's like, you know, in Walt Disney movies, like, then it activates us, and then we start functioning. But there is so much that we don't know. So in this way, they are trying to understand what this philosopher calls the hard problem of consciousness. This person that I've been reading and listening to his talks, wherever you talk about philosophy these days and philosophers that are alive, he's always there, David Chalmers. And so he is brilliant, and he can explain many things. But there he has come to a point where he has to visit swamis and other types of philosophers to begin to understand what is happening. And so they together are working at knowing. But the Swami, he knows Vedanta. So he told him a phrase in Sanskrit that says this. He says, whatever is this is not real. Whatever is this, whatever I can touch, whatever I can see, whatever I can so understand with my mind is not it. It is a reduction of reality. And so they're working with it, and I find it most interesting. So why don't we, if we really are Spanda, why are we not just established in it and living life fully? Because the mind has a veil. That's what it has to be open. It has to understand that everything that we're seeing, we have to become the subject. And like Baba would say in his books and everybody, the witness of the mind. So we watch it. And in watching it, it's like as if we got on a ladder or we went up and see things differently. Then what happens is that it's like here, no? If I'm here, I just see part of that picture. But if I get on a higher level, then I see more and I see better. And Spanda says you have to, every time, understand the things as they are. There is Spanda, the manifestation, which is the number 6 and 7. And I mark it here because it says something that I think is very interesting. He says the Spanda principle flowing as a group of inner causal divinities or Shaktis. So in reality, we have to understand that there's no several Shaktis also. Okay? This is a dangerous book Because the more you go into the understanding of Spanda, you can see that in an effort to help people to understand what it is, they have anthropomorphized it. You could say make it anthropomorphic, which means humanize it, make it like a human. So the god looks like a man, the goddess looks like a woman, and their weapons and everything is very down to this level of us. But we have to like shake ourselves out of this and understand that Spanda is subtle and we don't see it and we don't understand it. We have to just know that we are it. Otherwise, we follow into the same game, the game of the world, but in spirituality. Then we just change the names and we change the labels. But to really get to that, it's necessary to do away with so much. So it says here, due to which all sense organs, though inert, he says, just as Patanjali, the organs are inert. They don't think, they don't feel, they don't do anything. They have to be activated. Acquire the ability of creation, sustenance, and dissolution should be examined with great care and effort. So all this knowledge cannot be just read like that. We have to put our heart. I was watching Gurudev's talk today in Magor, and even though I don't understand the language, but I could see the passion that he put into saying, like he was like chanting and speaking like that. And I'm sure he was saying, do it with all your heart, with great care and effort. So if the effort is not there, then we just, I'm reading a book. So by this examination, its innate independence pervading all can be experienced. So the more we go into the principles of Spanda, the better we can see where it says a deeper degree of consciousness present in the object that makes it inert or insentient like a rock or sentient like a living creature that we have to know. So this is Dharana, no, that's not Dharana, Satsang number 6. And it's trying to explain by contact with this power, then we become like it. You may remember also Pratyabhijna, that book that we studied quite a few years ago. There's also one that says when the individual performs the 5 actions in the same way as Shiva performs the divine actions, knowing that it is a reduction of that power, then he or she becomes Shiva. So it's just a matter of knowing I'm creating a thought, I have this idea, and at that moment quickly, I am doing the creation. I'm performing the creation. How long is this thought going to remain in my mind? Like 3 minutes, 1 hour, sustenance. I'm like playing Shiva. And then as soon as another thought comes or no disappears, then dissolution. And I may forget that I'm Shiva, and then I am from myself hiding, which is concealment, the 4th function of Shiva. So it is an exercise that when we remember, we do like I'm creating, I'm sustaining, I'm dissolving, and then I am concealing from myself, and then I give myself grace. In Baba's books, it says many times, disciples' grace. They ask him many times, what is Guru's grace? He says, ask me about disciples' grace, because grace descends, and it is disciple in his grace or her grace that receives it. So that's what happens, that we have to identify ourselves not with this limited being, but with that one divine capability. And how is this world created then? It is Shankaracharya asked this question in 5 parts. And because I am not going to remember the 5 parts, but he says, how is this world created? He just sat down and instead of asking other type of questions, how is this world created? From which materials is it created? That was his thing. What materials? Is his material as the analogy that they use of a spider? That's it, from the body, the spider creates that thread and creates a home and creates a trap to provide his food or her food. And then when it's done, then it absorbs it again in itself. But the difference here is the spider is one thing and the thread is another. It's not the same body. So that is the difference, because analogies for this, they never go as far. Okay, we have to understand the analogy and then use our imagination for the final part. Because another analogy that I'm going to use in this talk also like don't quite make it, but we have to help there, okay? We have to contribute. So what happens is that it is created from pulsations of energy. That is what it explains here. Pulsations of that energy, and then as if moving in an ocean, it creates, we could say, waves of creation, and the world starts to manifest. And then its intelligence, because it is Sat, is eternal, and Chit is conscious. So the explanation is this, and it happens also in physical reality, is pulsation of energy that then become pulsations of information, like we could say bits, B-I-T-S, bits, no? Then it's the information, and it dictates the information to all the beings and all the levels of creation. What is in the oceans, which is in the air, which is on earth, and everything that it's doing, it dictates that. And so it would be like bits, we could imagine that. And they're the actual physical creation. So it goes like that, and it sustains it for some time, and then it disappears. And we are in it also. So that is important. It insists that Spanda is not a state, and it is not an object, but the foundation on which all the states, the state of being awake, and then sleeping, and deep sleep, and turiya, or the fourth state of consciousness. So there's supposedly there's four, right? It's waking state, sleeping, deep sleep, and the fourth state that permeates all the other three. And it permeates it constantly and without interruption. And the analogy that they use is either with some oil, like you pour oil from one vessel to another, and there's no interruption in the falling of the oil. And then it says the turiya state is like that oil that permeates all the three states. But then somebody must have felt something else, because they say turiya tita, beyond turiya. So it's like a fifth state. And as you can imagine, there's 1, 2, 3, it's never ending. Why? Because that is states. But the foundation from where everything comes, that is Spanda. So no matter how many states really, and when people think that they have achieved some level, it's only a level, and from which one can fall. So important thing is to try to always stay in Spanda. Then it says, it is unknowable. With this brain, with this mind, we cannot know Spanda. So whatever we see from that very viewpoint is unreal. But when we understand that this is a reduction of Spanda, then it is real and it works for us with objects here at this level. But it invites us to always be remembering the highest, so that the mind is always shooting, like aiming at that. So it is unknowable, one cannot know it. It says it is like water in the ocean. They cannot think of anything bigger than the ocean, so mostly it's the ocean and the pot of clay, and these analogies that we use. He explains something that is also in a saying of Kabir, that says when you are in the water and you open your eyes and all you see is water, but the water in the water doesn't look as water because it is all you see. In the same way, we are in consciousness, we are in Spanda, but we don't see it because we are in it and we are it. In the same way, if you say, well, I don't see any water, no, because you are in the water. And there's, I think Kabir, I don't remember, has a poem in which somebody comes and says, what is it like to be enlightened? What is it like to feel this, to know this? And the sage thinks for a moment and he says, it's I who don't understand how you can be in consciousness and not know it. You remind me of a fish in water that comes and tells me that he's thirsty. So, because he's always there, he's used to being in consciousness, he really doesn't understand the person who is not. just as the same way that we are not, and we don't really, really understand what it is to be there, except for flashes or moments. And the moments then become a little longer. And then they use another analogy, which is a famous analogy of the clay pot. So the way they explain it is there is a clay pot here, and then there's the air. And the air has a name, that phenomenon of the air that is inside the pot and the other air outside is Gruha Akasha. So there is a name for the air that is outside, and there is a name for the one that is inside. But the moment when the pot is broken, then we see that there's no difference. The air was always there. This is a classic way in which this analogy is explained. However, Spandakarika goes one step further. It says, no, the air is not and never was in the pot. The pot is in the air. And that makes big difference. Philosophers, I mean, really, because they sit down with love for knowledge and they debate and they try to find the truth. As they explained here, they were neighbors with Buddhists, and so many people think they were enemies, not Shaivites with Buddhists, but they were not. The debate is to find more light. It's not about who wins or who loses. And here are the results of those debates sometimes. I'm going to read just one, and it's not the whole debate, just the reduction. Okay. So the clay pot is in the air. So consciousness is not in us. And when we understand this, what the commentator says, we stop chasing our tail like a dog, because we don't have to look for an experience, for a spiritual experience, or to see God, or to see angels, or to all those things, no? Blue light. We are it. We have to, the effort has to be in all the time recognizing that we are it, that spanda, that pure knowledge. And any experience is had by the subtle ego. Bad news. So when people say, I had this experience and I saw Baba, and it's the subtle ego that is, because it has to be two. The one who has the experience, the one who is experiencing, and the experience itself. So it's two, it's duality, and it's the subtle ego that is having that experience, not us as the self. This is very clear. I mean, it was clear after I read it like 50 times, but it's clear. So then, I remember also there was this book called The Little Prince. I don't know, here was, in Spanish it's very popular. And it has a phrase that says, nobody can pluck a flower without disturbing a galaxy. And people are, what a nice analogy. But it's true, because it is just one and the same thing. So that is what they explain here. When the person really moves itself, herself, himself to the side, then what they reach is a state that Spanda doesn't call it enlightened, doesn't call it illumination, nothing. He calls it the natural state, which here is good news because it's natural state, akrutimo. And then all the problems disappear there, according to Spanda, because then they are not thinking about anything. This is number 6 and 7, in case you want to read it later. It has some charts, and it's very well written by Umesh. Then the 7, it's a long book. Okay. So number 8 is called Touch Spanda with the individual. And the individual, what it does is that it allows itself to feel that it's Spanda. There's no two. There's no touch and there's no non-touch. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that you wait for an experience. It's just that the experience happened. Thanks to the meditation, that must be very deep. If we remember the program that we send on the calendar, it says topic for the year, as suggested by Gurudev or something, is called meditation, Spanda, divine vibration. So meditation is first, because by calming the mind, then the mind can do a longer time in that consciousness of Spanda, and then know what is real and what is not. So here in 8, he says, there is another meaning, An individual does not live only as the driving force of the desires. This 8 is going to lead us to 9 and 10. And these are the 3 that we're going to see today. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. I think probably we have memorized them already. This explains the following. The individual thinks that they are creating these desires and following them, pursuing them and being happy or sad according to whether they succeed or fail. So this is the human life as they describe it, and then one has to see that it's not us who do it. It's not us who had this desire, the driving force, he calls it, of the desires. But just with the touch of power of the self, the individual will become like the self. Here what he is going to explain is this. When we are established in Spanda, the desires don't go away. The desires don't disappear. You just have them the same, but in less time and with less effort, then we fulfill them. And they keep fulfilling it even when the desire is in the nascent stage, meaning like it's just like a spanda, we could say, inner spanda, because it's a spanda, then it's a thought, then it's a word, there is a desire, sometimes it gets expressed. That is how everything comes from the depths of ourself to when it's manifested. But it says when you are, established in spanda, then it just happens. And we have seen, the lives of saints, the lives of people that are so enlightened, or the lives of people who are just always with their minds in that state. So this is number 8, and this is what it explains, that we are not the creator of those desires. It is also, I think, good to know that when a desire arises, it comes from somewhere in the bottom of our memories, or something we read, or something we heard, and the piece there to know if it's really my desire, or is something a learned behavior. Because otherwise we are following what other people or television or society dictates. So he calls it here total independence. Independence. And this is the 8. Then the 9 has a funny name. It says, stop agitating and experience Spanda. Due to an individual's own impurity, and here impurity only has one meaning, and the only meaning is ignorance of the true self, of the true nature. They don't refer ever to another type of impurity that we may think about. So it's due to the individual impurity, the individual is incapacitated, unfulfilled, and is therefore desirous or worldly gains to attain fulfillment. We can read it backwards, like Arabic. No? It doesn't gain fulfillment because it's desirous of worldly goods, because it's unfulfilled and incapacitated because it has this impurity, the ignorance of its own nature. So when we read it backwards, to me, it was easier. So it just boils down to the knowledge of the true nature, of the nature of Spanda. And it keeps in each one of the I mean, it should be so easy. Then one thinks, why not? But what it says is because it's natural, one has to just be in it. In any practice that we do, see it as that, as like movements of Shiva, like it explains in Pratyabhijna. I am creating something, I am going to chant, okay, I'm chanting and creating the activity of chanting. I sustain it with everybody for some time, then it dissolves, the chant disappears. Then I forget, I see somebody or I read something, I come into my normal human level, and then therefore it is dissolved. And then I give myself grace, and I remember who I really am. So the 5 functions of Shiva, we do it in every activity. Cooking, same thing. Thinking, same thing. Chanting or driving. The suggestion is there to do it as frequently as possible and remember it as frequently as possible so it becomes nature. Not second nature, but the nature, because it is. That's the promise of Spanda. So this is 9. And it says, an individual cannot touch Spanda. The power of self, because the individual is pervaded with innate impurity, and also because the individual is involved in working towards fulfilling his desires. When restlessness of the delusive belief I am the body dissolves, then the individual is established in his highest state. This, the important phrase here, the restlessness of the delusive belief. So I read the whole explanation in the book because it's like 16 pages. And the meaning is, it says, people who are obsessed with action. People who are obsessed with action can be somebody who's always very busy, always working too much, or always doing all the sports, or always watching all the programs of television, obsessed with action. And he says, be careful not to be obsessed with action in spirituality. Like I want to chant 15 hours every day, things like that. When we get overexcited, and then it falls into what it says, obsessed with action. So when I don't know what you fellow sadhakas think, but I think is be aware and discern between even the action which is spiritual, that is necessary, and the one that is not. Like a sword, no? Distinguish, okay, what am I doing? Am I going to do it? It'll take me 1 minute to decide, to discern. Because I found it interesting that it mentions that there can be the risk of becoming too active, even in spirituality. So I thought I'd bring that today. Now, on the question of the ego, I have something that I thought it was nice to share. I read about the First World War, or World War I, and the president here in the United States was named Woodrow Wilson, and he proposed something that was very original, which was called peace without victory. In the Spandakarikas, in a way they mentioned, we are not fighting our ego, and we are not fighting anything, but how can you fight yourself? They said, if you do something with your hand and you take a sword and you cut your hand, how can that be? Who loses, who wins? Because everything is one. So this president said, we don't want to win causing somebody else's humiliation. Woodrow Wilson. So this is very sweet and very intelligent, because on the other hand, there was a phrase by the Roman emperors that said, what is the meaning of peace? And he said, peace is a field plowed with the bodies of our enemies. So it's two viewpoints, right? But what explained here is the ego, because sometimes we think the ego is the enemy. Like, I have too much ego, he has too much ego, little ego, what am I doing with my ego? Forget it. Ego is a contracted form of Spanda also. And it only works when it's activated. That they're always very precise in this. And as I was saying there, one word can change everything. I have been curious about, I did it before, Baba's words on the chanting book. The one that says God deals within you and you, I already received my question and I share it here. How does he call God? Among the so many gods that exist, when he says your God dwells within you, what word is the word he uses? It was important for me to know, and the word is Ram. And there's another explanation. And now, when he says with great respect and love, and I found out that actually he says with great love and then respect. So somebody changed the order. And it is important because when somebody like that tells you with great love, then it really gives the whole power of the word that is inherent in his Shakti. Why do I bring this here? Because this following and final Karika, it says we have to observe the Karika with great love, and a word like could be like tenderness and intelligence, indagar, no? So what he's saying is we have to study with feeling, and the feeling has to be soft and loving and tender. So this is for when we start practicing Spanda, all these instructions, that it shouldn't be like, okay, I'm going to win. There's nothing to win because we are already that. That's what it explains. So the 10th and final one is called expanse of knowing and doing. And here is something so interesting. He says, people think that doing and knowing are two different things. But no, in knowing, we are doing. Where somebody knows something, just by being there radiating that wisdom, it is doing. And when somebody is doing, in that doing is showing what he or she knows. So he says, doing is the expansion of knowing and doing. Verse 10 of the Spandakarika. This is the final one for today. It says, as perturbation dissolves kshoba. Kshoba is the word that we read in Karika number 8. When it says people who are obsessed with action, then are perturbed, like nervous or anxiety or something. So that word, kshoba. And it says here, as perturbation dissolves by meditation or by contemplation, the individual's intuitive natural state, which is of the form of knowing and doing, manifests. And he puts together doing and knowing. The moment he has the touch of the power of the self, whatever the individual wants to know, he and she independently knows and does. Is what I just said about Karika number 8, right? That when you are establishing that, then you have to just know it, that you want something, and obtain it. And many times not even knowing, even before you know it, it's there. So he says, knowing is an expansion, doing is an expansion in Spanda. And he says, he and she independently knows and does. On the other hand, in the worldly plight, this is never possible. So the worldly desires do not come about like this, which I find here a contradiction to number 8, which I'm going to investigate. And finally, he says, when agitation stops, limitation falls away, and the natural state is experienced. The verse says that the natural state is omniscience and omnipotence. So he's presenting the individual full of these powers, as all the sages do. Patanjali Yoga Sutras, we did too. And now, notes. Let me see if I'm forgetting something. There is another phrase there that says, movement is stillness and stillness is movement. So to know sometimes, I think immediately of Bhagavan, Nityananda, no? When I read this phrase. So sometimes he is against or recommends not to fall prey to excessive action. Excessive action cannot be positive. So at the end of that paragraph, he says, movement is stillness and stillness is movement. So it's worth considering when we really need to do something, or sometimes it just seems like it's necessary to do it. I think that's where it goes. And so I'd like to end with a poem that I found, which is like, is God seeing everywhere, everything? Ronald Knox is from the 17th century. He was like an agricultural person, and he wrote this, and he says that the trees are in a quad, Q-U-A-D. I don't know that word, it's from another century, so I had to look it up, and says this: there was a young man who said, God must think it exceedingly odd if he finds that this tree continues to be when there's no one about in the quad. Reply, dear sir, your astonishment's odd. I am always about in the quad. And that's why the tree will continue to be, since observed by yours faithfully, God. And with this, well, at least we have reached Karika number 10. And then next Sunday is going to be wonderful. So the Spanda will continue with a much more better speaker. Thank you for listening. I feel the interest, and it's very, very sweet. Sagurunath Maharaj Ki Jai.
धन्य धन्य प्रदक्षिणा सद्गुरु So this concludes our Sunday morning satsang. Thank you all for your presence here, and thank you, Nityeshwari, for your talk offering on Spandakarikas. And so what do we have coming up? So next weekend, of course, is Gurudev's arrival weekend. So everybody's invited to join us. The ones who are here locally, you're welcome to join us on Saturday morning. Gurudev has a late arrival on Friday evening, so Saturday morning at our morning chant in the temple is when we'll have our first welcome to him. So everybody's invited to join us for that. So that starts at 6:45 in the morning. And we finish at about 8 o'clock for breakfast. So that's on the 14th. And then on the 16th, we have our formal welcome satsang with Gurudev right here at the Namaste lobby, so everybody can join us here. And also coming up this week on Wednesday, April 12th, we have our Kosha Kids Camp. We have the orientation, the first orientation for all of the parents, and that's in the yurt over there where Roots and Wings are. So if anybody would like to come to that orientation by Vivek, it'll be a introduction as to what this whole kosha concept is, this holistic education piece, and the initiative that's going to be present here for this year. We're going to have several children's camps, all different ages, but you can come to the free orientation on Wednesday from 2:30 to 3:30. So just a reminder to everyone about that. Then on the 16th, Gurudev's welcome program. And then following that week, so for 10 days, then Gurudev is on the road and will be down south going to New Jersey and then down to Delaware, Maryland, South Carolina, and then back up. And he'll return back up here on the 27th of April. And everyone is welcome to join him on that weekend for Sunday morning satsang. In his absence, Larry Holmes will be speaking on that Saturday, on Spandakarika, on Sunday, sorry. So everyone is welcome to join us for that as well. And then we move into Baba's birthday weekend. So May 6th is the Global Intensive. So for those of you who are joining us online, you can register for that. That's the May Intensive in honor of Baba Muktananda's birthday, May 6th. And then Gurudev will be here in person for that intensive. And then coming up shortly after that, we have also, I forgot one thing in April. April 29th, we also have the first Kosha Kids Camp, and we also have that same day a sitar concert here. So everyone's invited to join us for the music concert. So sitar concert accompanied by a tabla player. That's also on the 29th. So the 29th has a few things going on. And then after Baba Muktananda's birthday intensive, we also have level 1, starting of understanding the Siddha path, which is level 1, the course, which again, I highly recommend to anyone who is able to gather your resources and put your time aside for those 3 weeks. A phenomenal opportunity for everyone to understand Baba's path, Baba's legacy, the teaching, the traditions, in a 3-week comprehensive retreat. So that's level 1. And I think I'll leave you with all of that for now. I think that's plenty for all of us to absorb and embrace and imbibe. With that, everybody here locally is invited to come up for darshan, followed by our Easter picnic. And I would like to thank everyone in advance for any of the dishes or offerings that you have brought today. So thank you all, and we'll see you all very soon. It's we have a few locations. Everything's been cleaned up, but it's still according to your preferred temperature. You either have the courtyard, or you have the dining room, or you have the outside deck, or the pavilion. So take your pick. Sadhguru Nath Maharaj Ki Jai.